Good evening, everyone. So, today we're going to look at the repeating cycle in abuse. Earlier, we saw the idealization phase of someone who could cause emotional abuse to another person. So, that person causing the abuse can be a male or a female, and the person getting abused, being in the victim state or being in the survivor state, can still be a male or a female. What is the difference that it makes between being in a victim state and the survivor status? Unless someone really realizes that I'm going through abuse and is not aware of it and still falls a prey to it by self giving self justification that this is how marriage life is. Here we are exclusively talking about the relationship between husband and wife. So the other person may think that this is how marriage works, and I need to be a little more patient, or like this is what my mother taught me, or this is what my family values taught me. Maybe they put up with such things. So until they realize that they are getting victimized uh, and take a step forward to help themselves, to not go through that and just get that awareness that I'm getting abused. This is not a very normal thing that anyone else can have. This is not a healthy relationship. It takes time for the person to realize. So once that realization comes, the victim turns into a survivor, where they try out certain things to stand up for themselves. And here are some suggestions which we will be taking back from the session which like we are like having past 6 hours, and this is our seventh session. So whatever would be after this end of this 10 sessions which we plan to like have, we will get an idea about how to help our clients who are going through this, as well as in our own circles, our own families, our own relative circle, in our own neighborhood. We could have seen people going through different things, and that one fact that it is an emotional abuse is not being recognized by the victim's own families, or the survivor's own family doesn't acknowledge it. Because I feel that people are very well aware of something called as physical abuse, domestic violent acts which can cause hurt, physical hurt, which can be seen outside. But the emotional hurt is not that easily can't be shown outside. And getting back to the slide, repeating the cycle in abuse, the devaluation stage can leave you feeling depressed, anxious, confused, scared of losing the relationship, so on. So, what is this devaluation stage? As we already saw, in a devaluation stage, what can happen is generally people who want someone in a relationship, they do this love bombing. That is what we call as the idealization stage. Here we're talking about people who are causing abuse to the other person. They have a pattern of choosing people which we will be discussing. So in the idealization stage, it will be like totally they portray themselves as this is the kind of man I want to go with, or this is a real kind of an you're an angel into my life kind of feeling that the person can give. Or the other way around, maybe the to give that male the kind of feeling that I think I was waiting so many years to just meet you. Giving such kind of dialogues is a love bombing in the idealization stage. You're the perfect ever gentleman that I've met, and such things are happening. We are meeting many people who come with this kind of a histories where they later on realize that somewhere they're deceived. So, in the idealization stage, the abuser gives the victim an image that they're in totally love with them, and this love most of the time happens all of a sudden. Love at they call it love at first sight, and they give reasons like you exactly look like my mom, or you exactly look like my father is a favorite person to me, and somewhere I feel that connect with you, or you look so beautiful, you're so lovely, you're so sweet. Both genders can give these kind of comments, and they will always portray the positive side. Even in many love relationships, why they don't withstand for a long period of time compared to arranged marriages? Though there is a but I think the research says that there's an increase in divorce rates in love marriages than arranged marriages. And I think the reason can be that when it is an arranged marriage, generally people from both the families try to put people together to make the marriage happen. That is an extra effort and an advantage when the marriage is arranged by families, because in India, here the culture is like, we are not like, it is, the marriage is not between two individuals though we are adults. Marriages are generally between two families, and the kind of formalities we have post marriage and prior to marriage is also very unique compared to other countries. And it also differs. We are like kind of it's a diverse diverse culture which we have here. Every state has its culture of this proceeding with a marriage, prior marriage, post marriage, and at every stage there are certain customs which we are involving family members too. And in this kind of a thing, here when it is a devaluation stage, is the stage where the same person who idealized that particular individual is now not okay with it. No, it's not showing an okay behavior. It's not showing the same behavior. The same mouth which called you an angel can badmouth you in the devaluation stage. The term devaluation itself says that it's, you're no more valued for what you are, and once you're got into that circle, it's no more that kind of state is not going to come back to you. This we saw many things like stonewalling, being not verbally communicative, giving the silent treatment. When some certain things need to be solved, it's not discussed. And if something is being questioned, the other individual immediately gets provoked, showing passive aggression, such things. So when somebody is showing this kind of a behavior back to back, at one point praising the person, and at the other time really like defaming them in a public talk, or when guests come home, defaming the person, and like sometimes in person character assassinating the person. And and when they come to know, when the abuser comes to know that the other person is getting upset, and somewhere the other person is acknowledging the fact that the person needs to be treated better, it is time when they realize that they have to shift to the idealization state. Idealization state is the love bombing state. Again, like trying to convince them and say some nice things. See, I'm sorry. I just did it out of anger, and you should never leave me. I love you so much. This relationship is built upon both our love, and such things. All such nice things they may say, and love bomb them again, which can actually leave that particular individual confused. They've not got answers for many questions, though asked many times. They are now confused whether what is wrong with me, or it is really the other person's fault or my fault. For what am I going through this? that kind of a confused state can lose help, the person might start losing self confidence, but they somewhere want to stick on to that relationship. So for some reason they want to stick on to that relationship. We don't know what it is. Only when we do personal work with that person we understand whether it is a pattern, whether it is a learned pattern, or they're used to it, or that connection is something that they want because they're used to that pattern, or maybe it is because of they're more concerned and bothered about what the society will think. So the victim might try harder to please them or pull away from them to protect her or himself. Some way when I'm always getting trouble, so at some point I feel that need to protect my own self, because once emotionally someone is like being bothered too much, it's very natural for them to deplete on their physical and mental health. Many health problems might arise. People might get migraine. People's immunity might go down. The quality of sleep will become poor, and the food intake will become poor. So when they're not in a proper state of mind, again when there are children in that marriage, it's very unfortunate that what attention they are going to get, and like how much of care someone who's already into a trap can provide to their children is all a question mark. Again I'm telling you that this can happen for both men. There are men who are also victims and survivors of emotional abuse. It can happen both ways. Then once all this the person finds out that this person is getting a little alert, they will start the idealization phase. And once they get the victim into control, or the survivor into control, they will begin with the devaluation stage. So such relationships can be successful only in the in a short term, but it cannot continue like this in the long term, because a relationship is all about mutual communication, mutual respect, mutual trust, and that kind of honesty should be there in, and open communications should be there between couple. And though it grows over time, it cannot happen in an abusive marriage. So some people we saw earlier in intentional and unintentional kind of abuse that a person can do. Intentional is, we spoke a lot about unintentional. Intentional is, I want to feel empowered by belittling the other person. The person can also be a victim of narcissistic personality disorder or some other borderline personality disorder. So, such things where people with personality disorders can have a fragile sense of self, which might cause them that need for extra need for validation, and for them to feel themselves. It takes quite a lot of effort for them to feel comfortable with their own selves, and thereby some people with personality disorders can have this get this feeling of sadistic pleasure, where you belittle someone, where you criticize someone, you sabotage someone, and then you feel good about it. So that is a kind of an unhealthy state of mind. And the sad thing is, most people with personality disorders do not come forward to take treatment. They know very well who they are. And sometimes for them to realize that that needs to be corrected, and to accept the fact that I have a problem is not an easy thing to happen. So finally comes the discard stage. So in the discard stage, the person who's causing the abuse, generally in narcissistic abuse, we have these stages. So when they feel that now that partner is alert and I cannot play these kind of games with my partner, no more this is going to work out, because the person also has their support system. Maybe the person has supportive family who 100% believes in them, trusts them, and want them to come out of this toxic marriage. And maybe they are quite empowered with their legal team, or they know what is the do's and don'ts which they need to follow. And if the person is no more getting any kind of benefits by staying in this relationship, not even sadistic pleasure, I have no control over this relationship anymore, I will let the other person go free. That can also be the attitude. Or they can suddenly ghost out. So sometimes very brutally shutting down the other person, suddenly making an abscond or no contact by blocking on everything. See, even when it is a divorce, it should be like when people are wanting a divorce, it should happen in a very smooth way. Not like when somebody decides to have a separation, if they can still work on making it a decent one rather than accusing each other, shaming each other. That is not the agenda. Agenda is you're not comfortable with something, move out from it, and look for better opportunities in terms of career or your personal life in the future. But I don't think that agenda should be to just shame the other person, to put down the other person, to character assassinate the other person. Such things should be avoided, whereas that does not that easily happen with people who have narcissistic traits and tendencies. Now, as I keep telling you, not everybody who's causing an abuse has a personality disorder. Personality disorder is the extreme state, but many people, based upon their genetic constitution as well as their own grooming up, how they were groomed up as a child, their own experiences, has created that individual in a way that they have some abusive tendencies. And sometimes, no, it's not very easy for the survivor to move out of the relationship because they would have already taken control of many things like finances, children, property, many things they could have had a control on, hand on. So it's very difficult to that process of separation can be very very difficult for the survivor to undergo. Yeah, so this is what we saw: idealization, devaluation, and final stage is the discard. And these patterns can be repeated. Once a person absconds and just shuts away, it's not that they're permanently gone. Some people have this tendency to get back after a period of time and do love bombing, saying that in this separation period from you, this was the most painful period of my life, where I realized your value, where I realized your self worth. I can no more live without you. And they can even fall on people's feet to convince and get them back into the relationship. This is very much possible. We have seen the same in many cases, and that's why I'm able to tell you this strongly that this happens. Generally, who people can target, who can be the target for people who choose partners like consciously, even when people like try to offend someone, offend in the sense maybe take advantage or try to give some sexual signals, they might choose people who are a little soft spoken, who don't stand up for themselves, who are a little passive, and they know very well that this person will not talk back. She might not make a complaint against me if I do this to her. Let me try and see can be the attitude of the person. But they know already that this person is not that easy to handle or tackle. She might create problems for me in future. Maybe though they don't try to get in such kind of behaviors with this person based on the kind of uh, judgment they have made about the other person. So it can be like people who are generally people who are not having healthy families. Sometimes the particular individual is isolated or living alone. Such things could people can choose them. And mostly people who are introverts will not share personal things with others, so they can keep the secrets as a secret. And people who have a history of trauma or abuse are used to it, so they don't even realize that it is abuse. Some people will feel that that is a very normal form of life. And have low self esteem. Yes, some people cannot stand up for themselves because somewhere the self confidence is lagging for whatever reasons, whatever they went through, whether it was there existed in the past or it is only in the present, we don't know. So for some reasons they're not standing up for themselves, or they're scared of the society also, because the kind of families a particular person has been groomed also has something here to do. They teach us that when you break a marriage, it's very shameful for the family. Even today, many women die of dowry harassment and other things because somewhere they communicated the same to the parents, but the parents were the ones who gave maximum to the other side of the family. I mean, I'm talking about to whom they're married to, though they don't need to be giving it. They do that in a misunderstanding that if you do all this your daughter is going to be fine. It's not like that. They don't realize that. So in those kind of cases, finally at a point they say they generally keep their daughters or support their daughters only for a period of time. After that the parents themselves convince their daughters to live with the same person who is financially abusing. So I'm just giving this example because recent days also, even in 2020 until 2025, we've heard news of many young women, that was this generation women who are in their 20s, who committed suicide because of some form of an abuse. That is because of the society, um, the societal pressure. The family feels that relatives will, what will the relatives talk about us if you do this, so such things. But which is like, which is what is their understanding about life and the society. Somewhere as mental health professionals we have a bigger responsibility in spreading this message to people that it's okay to not be okay, and everything doesn't have to work for everyone. Everyone has something in the backlog. Nobody's life is perfect here. When we have downs, it is the time when we have to be supportive of people who are real sufferers. When somebody is turning from a victim state to a survivor state, we need to be with them. We need to be a support system for them, whether it is family or as a counselor to my client. I will be their support system. That is what that role each of us have here to play. And yeah, generally people who are financially dependent cannot that freely escape out of a unhealthy relationship. So that is one advantage, and moreover when they have children, that becomes a very big advantage. And if that individual is going through some kind of chronic illness, maybe they feel weak, they have something like some kind of condition like arthritis or any kind of chronic condition, like even it could be diabetes, Type 1 diabetes, which sets up quite early in 20s. So if they come to know, they feel that it's not that easy for this person to break the relationship. Somewhere this person has to be dependent on me, so let me choose this person, can be the intention of the other person. So some people have this need of why they are not breaking a relationship, because it is too painful and they cannot bear that pain of breaking a relationship, because more than love, it is called as emotional dependency. I'm too much emotionally dependent on my wife because I had no one else. I did not have parents. So I showered all that love on my wife, thinking that someday or the other she will change and she will acknowledge me and she will respect me for whom I am. So I showered a lot of love on her, and now, though she is making so many accusations on me, I'm unable to leave her. If this is the scenario that a man is going through, or this is something that that man is facing, he has an emotional dependency on that woman, and that is why he continued that relationship for a long time.
Sorry, ma'am. This point alone, can you repeat this last point? Who's the person who's thinking of like this?
Can you come again, ma'am?
Last point. Dependency we are talking about, right?
Dependency is thinking that dependency, I was just trying to clear that dependency is very different from loving someone. So I can love someone, but not to the extent that even I'm being shown away, even I'm being thrown away, I still go behind that person because I feel that I have no one else. Because it again depends upon that individual's situation. Maybe the individual did not grow up with parents, there were no one else to show love on them. So that kind of dependency, after a period they make a decision that this person is going to be my whole life, and lot of emotional investment on that partner. And if that is not being reciprocated and that is being misused, still they are not able to cut off the ties with that person, because they can have an dependency on them, emotional dependency or financial dependency or any kind of dependency. Okay. So here there's a small case example of my own case with some details changed in this. So we are looking at Suga, a 34-year-old woman of 7 years of marriage. Her husband had fertility issues, and because of that, from the beginning of the marriage, she's been very suspicious on the wife. So even when they're going to a tailoring shop, he will be the one who is deciding where she will keep her neck when she's stitching a salwar. Because he also advises the wife that she should be very cautious when someone comes and someone taller comes and stands next to her. They should not be able to view her body. So this is a statement he gives when she's newly married and when they're going to stitch some clothes for the wife. And later on, as days go by, he isolates this woman from her own family as well as from his family also. He isolates and makes that communication between with families minimal. And in the beginning, I think when they are in the love bombing stage, Suga would have been a victim. She wouldn't have realized that initially she would have thought that the husband is saying certain things or doing certain things out of possessiveness, and that much he loves me is the kind of image and impression that the husband had created for her in this particular case. So she, at a point, it was only communication with the spouse, and thereby he also like checks on her phone, her laptop, thinking that she's not present around, and she comes to know that he is doing it. But then she feels that there's nothing for me to hide So what if he sees is the kind of attitude that Suga had. Later on, when she comes to know, maybe 2 years later on after marriage, that this person is cannot father a child. The She gets a report that he cannot father a child. And no, in the period when she is being questioned by her in-laws about children, whenever she takes that topic to that spouse, he gets very angry when she speaks about some alternative therapy or treatment or whatever. And he will not just settle down with that just episode, but he'll carry that anger and show it in passive aggressive ways to her. And he might make accusations on her by giving very strong statements like, "You're not capable of mothering. That is why God did this to us, because you have poor health, because this woman had some less immunity. She had less immunity, and very easily she'll catch a cold or any kind of endemic, any pandemic. Like she immediately is prone to a vulnerability. So that was her past history, which she had shared with him. So based on that, he makes these kind of judgments, and he goes to the extent to also saying that you will die if you have a normal delivery. So he keeps on repeating this until she believes it, so that it is giving him some way to escape, to face that reality of whatever defect he has, and whatever like infertility can be some a kind of a disorder which can be treated or which cannot be treated. We don't know, depending on that particular case. And he is not ready to go for checkups or take medicines or try something, just because it is not only about him, but it also involves another human. And that consideration is not there. So make the woman cry all night. Sometimes when such topics are raised within four walls, he does this cruelty to this woman by talking such statements. That woman who is sensitive, who can be sensitive, um, is like, um, going through this, and all these arguments which are being placed or whatever he's saying is baseless. It's not evidence based. Some baseless, useless arguments going on again and again. And as a result of this frequent crying spells, this woman frequently gets admitted, and she'll be on drip. Then they'll put some nutrition kind of injections, some vitamin injections, and she'll get discharged. There's been a pattern where she showed me a history of a private hospital where she was admitted 8 times. And this woman goes through mental depression after a period of time, and she starts using antidepressants on psychiatric prescription. And later on, after a period when she is like feeling really suffocated, she comes for therapy, counseling. Only allowed he is She was into a different profession, but that woman after a point is allowed to do only a teacher job by the husband. Initially the husband did not allow her to work, so after a period of time she had to really plead and like get his consent. And on people feel that teacher job is safe, because there are like people feel that less mistakes will happen, according to many people. When it is an IT job, or if it is some other job, like if that particular person, woman, especially when it's a woman, it's whether they're an advocate, or they're a police, or they're into some other service. Even IT they don't generally prefer, because they feel it is unsafe for them, but they portray it as it's unsafe for you. So when it is like that, many people have this impression that teacher job is a safe job. though I've worked in many schools and we know what happens within schools. So there is no job that you can say that 100% they will no one will be wrong, or everyone will be wrong. Such things we cannot place. Every profession is equally respectable and it has its own pros and cons. So this man will only pick him up and he will only drop. She cannot even travel and transport on her own. So she begs and pleads. He begs and pleads her after such episodes. Why this woman is continuing in this relationship for 7 years is because of his behavior of love bombing to not leave him and go away. I have no one. If you leave me and go, I will become orphaned. I did this out of love. I did this all out of possessiveness. You have to understand how much I love you. If you don't understand me, who else will understand me? And such people are very smart at creating a social image for themselves, a good reputation in the society, in the neighborhood, and in the girls, the guy's family will definitely know about. In this case, the guy's family definitely knows about what he is, though they will not reveal about it and they will pretend as though they don't know anything, because many people think that after when such people who are showing this kind of traits, they would have shown these in other closer relationships also. When it is a friendship or some other, even like parent child relationship also, people might think that after marriage this person will settle down, or after marriage let someone else take care of them. No, it's no more my responsibility. I've given my son or daughter to you, so hereafter you have to take care. They'll put it in that way and shut it off. Here, having a good reputation with Suga's family, Suga's parents, by not calling them uncle, auntie, but calling them as mom and dad. Calling Suga's parents as mom and dad, this person has already created a image about himself, and so it has been easy for Suga's husband to convince her family, and always bring her back and keep her within four walls. And he has full control over finances, medicines also he will only give her. He will only buy, he will only give her. She cannot even take that liberty of taking it on her own. And this woman, being a postgraduate, is going through all this unless at until one breaking point where she realizes that she has to she converted herself into a survivor from the victim state. That is the stage where she volunteers to go for uh, meet a mental health professional. And so that's what everything, including whom you should talk, whom you should not talk to in the neighborhood, travel. Only I will drop you in your mother's house and I will pick you up from your mother's house. Leisure activities also, even going for walking or something else, going to the park, which he wants to do, he will stop saying that it is unsafe for you in this particular area to walk and go alone. You should go when I am there, you go, don't go alone and take risk, will be his kind of response when she does that. So he is the one and only decision maker for both his life as well as her life. Suga can't have individual opinions. So this is a typical example of someone being in a narcissistic abuse. So that is why I just wanted to portray it with an example for clearer understanding. So I'll just talk about defeating the narcissist when it is an extreme stage. Earlier, we were looking into patching up when it is unintentional abuse, and where there can be traits of narcissism, and again, intensity differs. It's a broad spectrum where when it is very minimal abuse, which can be corrected with therapy or something else, some other kind of activity which the other individuals can engage in, or work with one person. Even in couple therapy, work with one person can actually bring a change with the other person. It's not that mandatory couple therapy will work only when both are together. It's not like that. If one person can make a change, it can influence the other person as well. That is how many couple therapy sessions are successful. So when it is defeat the abuser, first important thing is for the victim to turn into a strong survivor. So we can have our own liabilities for which we are targeted, and where we have to work on our confidence, the self-esteem. When it is a client who is in this kind of a state, some empowerment needs to be given for them to stand on their own feet, where they can really feel good or go in for higher studies, and build the broken pieces within them, and to get some healing from all the past. Let them cry out everything, and then like after a point, letting out all the negativity, and to refill it with more constructive activities. Such things can actually heal that individual. And it's very important for the other family members to be supportive of them, and prepare damage prevention. So suppose like cases like Suga, where it's a long period of suffering of 7 years, they can predict their spouse, what the spouse next move will be, because it's a known pattern. So only when Suga is in a clear state of mind, she can predict what the husband will next do, and she can prepare herself for damage control, whether it is retrieving her bank accounts, or retrieving her jewelry, money, or children, or whatever it is. It can be done without much of damage and noise around. Not to maintain that self dignity, self respect. Everybody deserves to live a life of dignity. Clear execution of vision. So if only the survivor has a clear vision, the person will be able to move towards it, move towards what I want next. If I don't know really what I want, then what will I do next? So this vision should not be influenced anywhere by the abuser, because he gave some lovely words that hereafter we will start afresh, we'll start a new life. If this person is going to again go into it, then the person is getting into the trap. Here we are only talking about extreme stages, like Suga's case, extreme cases where they are not able to handle when it is too much of mess. Earlier, we were looking into simpler cases where it can be resolved by making some little changes within our own self, and as a family. Generally, anyone, whether it is a counselor or whether it is a lawyer or anyone you meet, the general attitude of people will be to uh, put things together. Building a nest is like something as important it is like to birds. For humans also, building that nest is building a family, is something very important, and mostly we will try to work on it to patch up the person, and like have a beautiful life together, build families, and have beautiful life ahead to experience that. But when sometimes when that is not happening, and when somebody, it's not necessary that someone has to live with the other person, even when they are abusing them to the extent that their mental health is depleting and physical health is depleting, no goal, no vision, not able to do anything, then why should someone be in a cage? No, even like there are people who, definitely it's not suggestible to put animals in a cage and exhibit them in a zoo. I am also not someone who's supporting it. So when that cannot happen, be the case with animals, I think it should not be the case with humans as well. Nobody should be caged. Actually, in prisons also, there is this Thanimai Sirai. which is a punishment zone where they don't let certain people who are coming in to mingle with others, especially when this Tanimai Sirai is given to people who are arrested for political reasons. After an interview, they share the experiences of it. Fortunately, I had this opportunity to visit the Coimbatore prison, and with the interaction with the superintendent of police, I got some understanding about what kind of help people inside will need, and which is the block which we can access and which is the block we cannot access. There is this HSP, high security block, where generally they will not allow us to access those prisoners. And no, to be caged is like it is a lot of mental torture to put someone in a separate prison, even when someone has done something wrong, because it's psychologically too much. Nobody can live like that. And I'm also against that concept personally of cutting wings of birds and putting them into cages and just hanging out it in the at home, because it's not meant to be that way. It's meant to fly. All right, so getting back to the subject, if the suffocation is extreme physically to move, the place is not wrong. And if someone is creating a fake image that I'm a perfect person and always the problem is with my partner, like in Suga's case, even in her own house, he had created a good image. So it's important for Suga to collect the proofs necessary to disprove him, to remove his fake identity and say that this is what he did, this is what I'm going through. The same kind of treatment which she's gone in a, through in a government private hospital can be transferred to a government hospital, where she can recordically have all those. And even in that consultation which she had the admissions which she has had in the hospital clearly states marital conflict and crying spells as the reason for admission. So these records are very important proofs. And the kind of juggling with money, sudden finances transferred from Suga's account to spouse's account. So such things, after retrieving by changing the passwords, if Suga has the credentials, she can change her password that the husband can no longer have access towards it. And if at all he has taken off some money from his account to, I mean, her account to his account, can be a proof of being abused. So all this is not like very shown outside. But if it's done in a stealthy way, it's okay to bring it to the limelight. And so such proofs are enough to say that someone has been doing this to the other person. And it's also like, as I keep telling you about the Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act, includes physical abuse, verbal abuse, as well as emotional abuse, which is not known to many people. Emotional abuse comes under PWDVA. So it's something, a message that we need to tell people, and we can have evidences. So the previous day, if she had cried the whole night, Suga had photographs of her face will be fully swollen, not because he bet her, because she cried all night, because she was not able to tolerate the kind of treatment he gave. He did not hit her, he did not beat her, but the words he said, the statements he uttered, she couldn't tolerate it, she couldn't digest it. She felt insulted, she felt shamed, she felt hurt, she felt disrespected. So these kind of some evidences they can collect of what is happening. She also has this um, thing, no, generally when they sit and have conversations, it's okay to have a camera in the hall or in areas where generally they have these kind of conversations. Nowadays technology is to the extent that the voice records too can be captured in the videos which is set and predict, and anyone can have access to it. The passwords, to whomever we share the passwords, if they download the app of the camera, even the girl's family can have view over what is happening within the family. So the woman should be clever enough to move to the hall if there is a unnecessary conversation picked up or a manipulative argument which is picked up, or it is some other passive aggressive behavior that he is exhibiting, like slamming doors or breaking things, whatever it is. So it's important for the survivor to know what are the next 5 steps that individual will take if I'm going to do this. So if this is what you're going to do, how should I safeguard myself and what should I do? That pre-plan should be there. That pre-plan can only be made if if the survivor's mind is now out of that victim state, and the survivor has become ready to stand for themselves. And here comes our important role. We are standing there as a support system for them, and that's why I feel that it's very important for us as mental health professionals to also know a little bit of law, and that is one of the reason why I got into this my post graduation in criminal justice, where we come to know many laws and rules and regulations on what can be done for people who really suffer. At the same time, I've dealt with a few cases where men are overloaded with fake allegations, false allegations, and they are also sufferers and victims. So somewhere we need to like document it as in grounds of cruelty. Justice is for everyone, and here anyway, to just first to show the worth of that particular survivor will induce fear to the abuser to back step back and to also realize that I can no more play these kind of games because she's now alert or he is now alert. So there can be extreme consequences if proven. If this kind of emotional abuse which that individual is going through if proven, there can be extreme consequences which the abuser should be reminded of. So I think I'll stop with this for today and continue further information in the next sessions. For today, if there is something that you would like to share, something to add on, something you want to speak, you can please go ahead. The floor is yours. Please feel free to talk. You can talk about what your takeaway was from today's session. I think all of you are taking more time to introspect, and if the yes, Bhavana ma'am.
Very nice and informative session, Swati. Thank you for sharing. And especially the case study, I think that is what we are able to relate to because this is what we actually come across in real life situations, right? So, so thank you so much. But there's one in between kind of a case, what I can that comes to my mind
Please share.
is it's see the person is actually very nice. Okay, he's a very very nice person, But then there's it is not exactly an emotional abuse. It's definitely not a physical abuse, but um, it is in between emotional and mental abuse. So it is very hard to even categorize it as a narcissistic behavior or a controlling person. Well, he could you could say that he could fall under the controlling behavior person. So in such cases, what do we do? It's a very borderline case.
A
And
borderline case
that
can
person
be
and that
worked
person
on.
wouldn't and that person wouldn't come for any therapy.
That's what I'm saying. As I just mentioned some time back, in a couple coaching or a couple therapy, it's not necessary that both partners should be present. If one is cooperative and willing to work on the relationship, when it is,
Correct.
as you said, when it is mild or borderline, if you feel that
Yeah.
the traits are not that severe, and the
Yeah.
woman takes a decision to still, or the woman or the man takes a decision to continue the relationship, some progress they will be able to make if they can empower themselves in a better way emotionally.
Right, true. So that is actually what has happened. So that is what I just wanted to share, because in such cases it's very hard. Even if one of the spouses doesn't go for therapy, the other person goes for therapy and at least gets some awareness and tries to stand up for himself or herself, and then with time, it gets a little better. So such cases are also there, right?
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
definitely.
Just wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you all of you. Yes, yes, Priya, ma'am.
Yeah, Swati, this session was extremely insightful and compassionate. Okay, uh, it really explained about the emotional abuse and the server support in a very clear, respectful, and empowering way. Thank you, Swati, for conducting such a sensitive and well-structured session. It created awareness while maintaining empathy for survivors. Thank you once again, Swati.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Ilakya, you wanted to speak, right?
Uh, Thank you, ma'am, for the session. It's really very, very, very uh, giving a more informations and very important sessions for us counselors. Um, I get a lot of informations in these cases because I'm also dealing with these cases very recently. Here, I get a lot of that recovery. What are the way we have to handle these cases? These sessions gave me a lot of knowledge regarding these cases. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. So I want to thank you all for the patience you maintained, and I'm very happy that whoever joined in the beginning sustained till the end, and this gives me immense pleasure because I feel productive when people are not leaving and just continuing. It gives me a very good feel, and I thank you all for joining me today. Let us meet up next week again with this same topic. Thank you so much.
And Swati, I just wanted to add,
Yes.
I love how you maintain punctuality. No matter, even if there's two people or three people, you still start the session on time and you end the session on time. So, good job. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.